around the Chief Justice who has been removed. It has never happened in our history, at least in the Fourth Republic, the way it's happened. And we're going to be bringing you more reactions to that. We're going to be hearing from the communications director of the presidency himself, Felix Kwachifosu, will be speaking to us on what has happened. Why did the president decide to go ahead and remove following that recommendation, although there were two other petitions yet to be heard? We'll be answering that question. He's also been dismissing allegations that this is all part of a witch hunt. We're also going to be hearing from the Ghana Bar Association tonight. You remember they spoke on the matter at the time when this whole controversy erupted. We'll be hearing from civil society too. This is a major development indeed as far as the judiciary is concerned. But what next is the big question. What next for the judiciary is the big question tonight. We'll be answering here on News Night. Also tonight, we have 14 more dead in the ongoing Gonja-Brifor ethnic clash in Gbenyiri, where we are now learning that the death toll has risen to 31 as the Savannah regional minister expresses optimism on ongoing interventions from the government and the Yagbon Wura. We will bring you more on this developing story. Also, we'll hear from the regional NADMO who are working round the clock to meet the Interior Minister Muntaka Mubarak as directive to submit data on all displaced persons for immediate government action. You want to stay with us for that because we are going to bring you the developing story around that. Also tonight, opposition NPP boycotts scheduled meeting with the National Peace Council to sign a peace pact ahead of tomorrow's Akwatia by-election over concerns the NDC's leadership have chosen constituency executives to represent the party at the meeting.
So we raised this issue. So unfortunately, we cannot continue the meeting. They have requested from the National Peace Council that they are going to inform their leadership. And for that matter, we need to give them some future.
We'll bring you more details as the EC announces plans to introduce a new approach of transmitting electoral results tomorrow. We have business for you too.
And Chamber of Petroleum Consumers warn recent pressure on city could push petroleum prices higher than expected for this week.
And let's stay right now with the ongoing developing story around the removal of the Chief Justice. As we've been hearing over the last couple of hours, the President has acted on the recommendation of the committee that was set up, and that committee has submitted its report to him, and they had recommended that the Chief Justice be removed. We've been hearing from the President's Director of Communications, who speaks for the government, Felix Kwachifosu, who has been dismissing allegations that this is all part of a grand witch hunt.
You know, it is not fair to make these blanket statements without any basis. The Constitution of Ghana was written before President Mahama took office. It does not attribute political motivation for the use of Article 146 for the purpose of removing this affairs. So why then does he then question the use of the same Article 146 for the removal of the Chief Justice based on petitions that were received, which petitions were taken through due process as prescribed by the Constitution, and they recommended the removal of the Chief Justice for stated misbehavior.
Right.
The former Deputy Attorney General is fully aware that the President has no choice in the matter. The President cannot decide to agree or disagree with the findings of the committee and therefore their recommendations. The President is bound to act in the same way that President Akufo-Addo once told the people of Ghana that he was bound to act once a petition comes before him because the Constitution stipulates so. So the basis for this claim of political motivation is completely unfounded. That the NDC in the past criticized the conduct of the Chief Justice and the Supreme Court or the entire judiciary of Ghana is no reason why, if a basis is determined by the committee for her removal, action should not be taken. It is not sufficient basis to allege political motivation in this particular matter. Justice Tokonu was removed from office upon the recommendation of the Justice Puaman Committee. Then he is also going to remove every Chief Justice that he comes to be. The law does not make room for that. Due process must be followed, and it must be seen to be followed. If another Chief Justice is appointed and they come to power and they find that there is basis for his removal, or they receive petitions and go through the same process, they are entitled to do so, just as they remove Charlotte. But what we should not be countenancing Is this flip-flopping? The idea that 2 legs are good but 4 legs are bad, and that if the NPP initiate processes to remove the head of an independent body, constitutional body, that is okay, well and good, it should be applauded. But if another party comes to power and the president acts in accordance with the constitution to take certain steps as prescribed by that constitution, then that one is bad. I don't think that we can come to that juncture.
Well, if you're just joining us right now, the Chief Justice, Gertrude Tokoni, has now been removed. She is no longer the Chief Justice of the Republic. It followed the recommendation submitted to the President on the back of that committee that was set up under the Constitution. The committee has acted on that, and the Chief Justice is gone. My colleague with me in the studio, Kenneth JC, will be going through this breaking story for you. In the course of this process, there were several challenges that were filed at the court seeking to stop the president and stop the process, raising fundamental legal and constitutional questions. One of them was filed by Vincent Akwatia. He's the MP for Old Tafo. He joins me on the line right now. Thank you very much, Akwatia, for your time here on Newsnight. Give me your reaction to the outcome as communicated by the presidency today.
Well, I think that I suspected that they will come, especially based on the fact that the very first day that I went to court, the atmosphere within the court environment and even the courtroom suggested that there's a grand scheme for more sectors to remove the Chief Justice. So I am not surprised at all. The only challenge that I have is the attempt by government spokesperson to equalize what happened with Charlotte Okoye. So it seems to me that in substance, they had nothing substantial really against the Chief Justice, but because it happened, or the same provision was triggered in the case of Charlotte Okoye, we should not have anything wrong against what is happening. That is shameful. The integrity of Ghana has been mad. Ghana's image has been put into protest. The image has been battered because of the overly politicization of the judiciary.
I mean, but this is a constitutional process that is stipulated in law. Which part of this was violated? For which reason it's become a political one that puts us to shame as a country?
I've had hope to educate the media and some section of the Ghanaians on the fact that something has not been stated clearly in the Constitution does not mean that you cannot find fault to it. The fact that you cannot see that something has been stated doesn't mean that nothing has been violated. I have had cause to see that in reading our Constitution, it is very important that the spirit of the Constitution and the intent of the premise of the Constitution is very important. And so if you interpret the Constitution and interpret it in such a way that contemporaneously the interpretation will lead to an absurdity, why do you go ahead and tell me that because that has been stated, nothing has been violated? That cannot be a proper interpretation of the law. And it is wrong. Anybody or any lawyer who tells you that because the term has been stated, and for that matter, you should interpret it the way it is, that lawyer is deceiving.
Well, this is not about lawyers, is it? I mean, because you took this before a court of competence jurisdiction, and they were unanimous that you had no case.
Well, I am saying that the first day I got to the courtroom, I've already indicated to you that it was clear that there's a grand scheme to remove the Chief Justice because the Chief Justice has not been lied, or for lack of better words, has not done things that will endear herself to other colleagues. And so that is another discussion that we can have. But procedurally, do you think that Ghana, where we've got into, this is how cheap we should remove our Chief Justice? This is how easy we should remove our Chief Justice? That cannot be the case, and that is why I'm saying that it is an assault to our democracy. Whatever has happened today is an assault to the independence of the judiciary. and this should not have happened. This will come back to hurt us today. Maybe because of goodwill. A lot of Ghanaians are not speaking against it. But tomorrow, you realize that this is the biggest mistake that any fourth Republican president has made. That it is going to haunt us, it is going to assault our future generation will come and realize that this thing that happened shouldn't have happened. It is just on the altar of politics. It is just on the altar of we do not like this woman, and for that matter, whether she likes it or not, she will have to live.
Well, the decision has been taken now. If you're looking forward to what happens next, obviously, a substantive Chief Justice will have to be appointed. That is subject to parliamentary oversight. That individual will have to be vetted by Parliament. The entire House will have to consider whether or not to approve subsequent to the committee's recommendations. Will whoever it is who is put forward, will that name get the nod of the NPP side?
Well, even before then, I believe that in combing through the Constitution this afternoon, I find that final judicial power will have to rest with the judiciary and with the court, and not the President of the Republic of Ghana. So I support that if I was the Chief Justice or the removed Chief Justice, by way of an application to the Supreme Court, there should be a right of an appeal for the decision of the recommendation, because the recommendation is, if you like, a decision that has been given against the Chief Justice, and final judicial decision-making of such a nature should not lie with a committee, but with the judiciary. So, even though the Constitution does not clearly say that the Chief Justice can appeal, but I am saying that in reading the Constitution, by way of its letter and spirit, the Chief Justice should probably go to court by way of the right of appeal to make sure that the recommendations that were given in the recommendations of the committee can have a different look at.
It's interesting, Vincent, you say that, because we spoke to the lead counsel for the Chief Justice, Nia Ikotu, a very experienced lawyer, a former Attorney General. We asked the same question. In his view, this is fait accompli. It's done. So how are you coming to the conclusion?
I am saying that when you read the Constitution itself, final judicial making body rest with the judiciary, and that is, I think, Article 125 or 127, the combined effect of both, I think. But if that is the case, because final decision making does not lie with the committee, my understanding of the law and per my interpretation that I can give, I think that the Chief Justice has the right of appeal and can appeal to the Supreme Court, that because the committee cannot have final judicial making decision, or cannot be a final judicial making body, can call on the Supreme Court for the Supreme Court to, as it will, look at the recommendation once again. But that is the prerogative of the Chief Justice, whether she's interested in that or not. But of course, when an appointment is made, the President has spoken. So for us on the part of the minority, we will accept the one who is going to be appointed on its merit and its competence as per the Constitution, and we do our job as a minority, or if like members of Parliament.
Vincent, thank you very much. He's one of those MPs who filed a process challenging the entire process leading to the removal of the Chief Justice has now been consummated. The President has accepted the recommendation of that committee. They've sent him via a report today with recommendation for the Chief Justice to go, and the President accepted it because, as we've heard from the Chief Government spokesperson, Akwatia, he has no option in the matter. Still live here on News Night. It's on Joy 99.7 FM. On the evening when we are witnesses to history, the removal of a sitting Chief Justice to the constitutional process. Indeed, Evans, that's an unprecedented event that has happened in the Fourth Republic. But let's go to the Savannah region now, because the death toll in ongoing Gonja-Brifor ethnic clash in Gbenyiri has risen from 17 to 31. Well, the clash between the two ethnic groups in the last week has also displaced over 48,000 people, with over 14,000 others seeking refuge in neighboring Burkina Faso, or Ivory Coast, I should say. Currently, there is pressure on limited resources as the makeshift camps are struggling to contain the increase in numbers. First, listen to some residents who say they're struggling to survive on a 1 square meal.
Since
the conflict, we've been wearing just one cloth. We have to wash it, rinse it, and wear it again. We want to go back home to get some of our belongings, but we can't. The women have fled, leaving everything behind, including the granates. We need help. We left everything behind. I have farms and livestock, but now I don't know what to do. All our properties are just left there.
And the chama,
We are far from the location where they are distributing food. By the time you get there, it's all finished. Yesterday, we just got one meal, and that was even after 4 p.m. We didn't get anything in the morning or afternoon.
Right, so you heard there some of the residents explaining their ordeal. Meanwhile, a delegation of chiefs, security officers, and the National Disaster Management Organization, NADMO, has been touring the camps today after a RECSEC meeting on the development. While speaking to the media after the tour, the Savannah Regional Minister, Salisu B. Aurabe, confirms the death toll now stands at 31.
It is our prayer that with this exercise and with the intervention of several actors, within the shortest time, we'll be able to overcome this and for the people to be reintegrated to the various communities for them to benefit whatever investment that they've had. Truly, from the interactions, it is clear that the ownership of land is in the hands of the king, the Gonra, and his paramount chiefs. And now, if indeed we're able to restore, then I can tell you that you'll be more than happy to be here and you get more investors to come here to invest, because peace and absolute peace is the result. As for the last count,
the number of deaths,
31. That is the rough estimate that I have got.
Okay.
That I can say is around 31.
Okay, that's it.
Let's stay in the region and speak to our correspondent, Rebecca Natoma. Thank you very much for your time this evening, Rebecca. You've been on a tour with the team today. Explain to us what really their living condition is, the residents.
Okay, currently, as we speak, the team from the Queens area, that is the delegation from Yabura Bikuni to Jerusalem the First, led by Honorary Committee, and some other paramountries, Mankonra Atade, Konra Jinkorde, the First, Sonara Amantana, and some other parties led the delegation from the King's Palace in Damango to Gbenyiri, just to know the areas where the conflict started. And actually, when they got to Gbenyiri, they also went to check where the murder place the first day. From there, the custodians of the land have to purify that particular area per the Gonja tradition and culture. So by pouring libations and also praying for the departed soul. And the Savannah Regional Minister, who also led research to the area, also spoke to the chiefs who went first just to pray for the departed soul, said Currently, they need peace in the area, and that is the only thing they need because there is curfew in 2 districts, that is Bole and Tola district. And where the disturbances started, that is the Gbenyiri area, as we say, everybody has fled from the community. The only person we saw in the community was just a blind old man in his room. And the youth chief in Bole, popularly known as Kapala, actually gave him some money. And in the process, he said, even if you give me this money, no one is in this community to sell food for me to buy. Actually, some of the seeds were in stock of the man's seed. But as it stands still, all the Gonja chiefs who went there actually told the regional minister that their worry is about the Gbenyiri who are on TikTok, social media, saying other things that will provoke them. And that is what they are appealing to the Savannah Regional Security Council to actually speak to the Gbenyiri or the lobby to speak to their youth to stop that.
Right, Rebecca Natoma, thank you very much. Thankfully, we have the Regional Minister for the Savannah region, Salisu B. Awuribe. Thank you very much, Minister, for your time this evening. First, help us understand the death toll. Is it indeed 31? And does it include the 6 who drowned in Lake the White Volta in an attempt to flee to neighboring Ivory Coast?
Yes, that is the figure that is currently given me. I stand to be corrected if it does turn out to be different. But in the mocks of Tamongo, part of Sola, Bole, and Carpenter, we have the death toll close to 25, in addition to other reported cases of some deaths, including the drowned people in the river. That's the estimated numbers rising to 31.
You are the head of REXEG in that particular region. What is the general security situation as we speak in the area? Is fighting still ongoing?
Currently, as we speak, the place is very calm. The communities are deserted. The mostly populated Gbenyiri communities are deserted. A few old men and women around. We are aware that some of them have relocated to Côte d'Ivoire and in some of the police stations within the Savannah region, to which we are attending to them. But it is not as active as we used to have. But the fact is also that there isn't any fighting going on in any of the communities in the 2 districts.
You are turning to the people who have fled to neighboring Ivory Coast. Are you appealing to them to return? Is that what you're trying to say?
We are making various overtures to the traditional authorities. We just came out from a meeting with the king after we went to the ground with his paramount chiefs and elders. The elders came and briefed him. REXEG also followed up and also gave our side of the narration. And there is a process set in motion. We are hoping that within the shortest of time, when the process set in motion bears its full fruits, everybody will be more free to be around and to interact.
Minister, you did mention that peace or calm has returned to the area. How do you plan to sustain that?
Pardon me?
You earlier indicated that calm and relative peace has returned to the area. I'm asking, how do you plan to sustain that?
Yes, the sustenance is actually going to be done by the proper integration and the necessary mediation works ongoing. Because the security will only give temporal security, but the long-lasting security is the understanding of the roles, the rights, and the need for them to live together as they did or they were having before. This is the lasting solution that we are seeking to get. And we are very hopeful that we will achieve it within the shortest time.
Awurebe, he is the Savannah Regional Minister. Thank you very much for your time this evening. You're still live on News 90s on Joy 99.7 FM. Right after business, opposition NPP boycotts scheduled meeting with National Peace Council to sign a peace pact ahead of tomorrow's Akwatia by-election. We tell you why.
So we raised this issue. So unfortunately, we cannot continue the meeting. They have requested from the National Peace Council that they are going to inform their leadership. And for that matter, we need to give them some few time.
Want to stay with us for that and more business right after this. You're live here on News Night on Joy 99.7 FM, and Gonja-Brifor is here with business. What's cooking?
Well, Evans, coming up, Chamber of Petroleum Consumers warn recent pressure on city could push petroleum prices higher than expected in the coming weeks. Fraud, tax offences and drug trafficking identified as major offences confronting Ghana in new National Risk Assessment Report on money laundering. The business news on Newsnights is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Kingdom Books and Stationery, your number one-stop shop for all your office essentials, into Stangs and Pepsodent, Herbal and Charcoal. Let's now settle for the details. The Chamber of Petroleum Consumers is warning that the recent pressure on the city could impact badly on fuel prices in the coming weeks. Now, fuel prices are expected to go up in the coming days as part of adjustment done every twice in a month. Its Executive Secretary Duncan Amwa says things doesn't look that good due to the current pressure on the local currency.
There's some variance there that does not allow the one city, $1 a liter rule to fester. So as we speak, petrol in Ghana is just above $1 for 1 liter. And so anytime the dollar gains, it means that Ghanaians would have to pay more at the pump. So that pressure on the city is something you cannot run away from. It is our hope that the Bank of Ghana indeed would set up and work so as to ensure that towards the end of the year and again the importation pressure peak, it would not be allowed to affect the cost of fuel in country.
Duncan Amwa is the Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers. Now, fraud, tax offences, drug trafficking have been identified as the major offences confronting the country. That is, when it comes to the country's fight against money laundering, terrorism financing, and actually profiling financing as well. Now, despite these concerns, the National Risk Assessment Report argued that Ghana's overall money laundering threat has been moved to medium. It depicts an improvement when it comes to its previous fight. However, the report was worried about the lack of regulation in the area of real estate, as well as the timely access to reliable beneficial ownership assets, which exposes the country to some threats as well. Two other stories as well. More females are now being employed over their male counterparts. Now, that's according to a new labor report put together by the Ghana Statistical Service. The data, for instance, show that the gap has increased significantly over the past 2 years. Dr. Hassan Drisu is government statistician.
Females have the greater share of the level of employment, with the sex difference increasing from about 632,000 in 2022 quarter one to about 1.12 million in quarter 4 of 2024. Though more females have been employed than males, like I mentioned earlier, unemployment rate is higher among females. The gender difference in unemployment rates narrowed from a peak of 7.4 percentage points in 2023 quarter 1 to 3.9 percentage points in 2024 quarter 4. in part due to substantial reduction in unemployment rate among females.
Government statistician Dr. Alhassan Idrisu. Now, partner and tax leader at accountant firm PwC Ghana, Aisha Bedwebe, has warned that Ghana risks losing trading access to the European market and the Western Bloc if it fails to abide by the European Union sustainable regulations. She explained the country could lose to a substantial share of its export revenue if strict enforcement of environmental, social and governance standards are not implemented. She spoke at the first Global ESG and Sustainability Reporting Summit organized by TSL Sustainability firm.
For Africa, engaging with the EU taxonomy is not optional, it is strategic. The risks arising from distancing ourselves are significant. African exporters in key sectors like agriculture, textiles, and mining are deeply integrated into the EU supply chains. If our activities on the African continent are not aligned with the taxonomy, we risk losing access to these crucial markets or will face prohibitively high compliance costs. Conversely, the taxonomy gives Africa a tremendous opportunity. African firms and governments can use it as a clear benchmark to improve sustainability practices, demonstrate commitment to global standards, and attract the large pools of sustainable finance looking for credible investments.
Bedwe Ibe is the partner and tax leader at accounting firm PwC Ghana. Now, the country manager for Visa Ghana, Fabrice Conan, has called on small and medium-sized enterprise businesses to consider using digital payments for their supplies and other expenses. Mr. Conan was speaking to Joy Business after a launch partnership with Zenith Bank to introduce a new Visa fleet solution for businesses in Accra.
In bringing visibility, in bringing optimization, you will probably save costs. And if you save costs, obviously it's helped you to, invest in more important aspects of your business. So that's really the rationale, helping the SMEs to really optimize their costs so that they can focus on more important part of the business. There's no extra charge. Basically for the holder of the card, you don't pay to pay. That's the principle of Visa. As a holder of the card, you don't pay extra charge. Obviously for the merchants, from a merchant standpoint, the fuel stations, they really pay a commission, but the consumer doesn't pay anything, so there is no extra charge of that solution. Obviously, bringing that solution, as Zenith, who is pushing that solution to the SMEs and the corporate.
Fabrice Conan is a country manager for Visa Ghana. And that's all for business on Newsnight.
It's a live on Newsnight is on Joy 99.7 FM, and I want to take you to Akwatia because tomorrow morning there is a big election happening there. There's a by-election, and already the National Peace Council was hoping to meet both the NDC and the NPP ahead of the by-election tomorrow because of concerns that violence may simply erupt in the wake of the by-elections there. But we are learning tonight that the NDC and the NPP both failed to commit to a peace pact in Akwatia ahead of the by-elections tomorrow morning. Now, a scheduled engagement facilitated by the National Peace Council collapsed after the NPP refused to participate, citing the NDC's decision to present constituency executives instead of national representatives. Listen to Sheikh Arimaya Shaib, who is a board member of the National Peace Council.
As we indicated to you in the morning, we had earlier separate engagements with the headquarters of the two political parties, both NDC and NPP, took some concerns. Subsequent to that, we had a meeting with the IGP to address some of the concerns that we know had been raised. And then subsequently, we also had a meeting with the chairman of the Electoral Commission, also to seek to address what in our estimation will help us to have a peaceful election in Akwatia, contrary to what we saw at Ablekuma. The two parties earlier on were represented, but there were some issues of concern that needed to be resolved. And in the spirit of mutual dialogue and mutual respect, the two parties agreed that we should suspend the meeting. As it is now, our assumption is that because tomorrow is the election day, probably there's so much work that they are doing. So we are still around, hoping to engage. Probably if it requires that we still engage them in a separate meetings, we will do so. Our intention and our objective here, within the context of the mandate that created us, and that is to facilitate peace and to develop mechanisms to ensure that we have sustainable peace in the country, is in keeping with that mandate that we want to remain and explore avenues to really have meetings, separate meetings, still with the members or the representatives of the two political parties, have an election that is devoid of violence, and we will not see a repeat of what we saw during the Ablekuma elections. So briefly, that is the briefing that we will give you for now. Probably as we are with you, if tomorrow there is any new development, still we will meet you and give you some update.
Well, the NPP's national organizer, Henry Nana Boakye, has been explaining why the party has declined to boycott or has decided to boycott the signing of the Peace Pact.
So we raised this issue. So unfortunately, we cannot continue the meeting. They have requested from the National Peace Council that they are going to inform their leadership. And for that matter, we need to give them some few time. And then they will come with a proper and a well-represented team from the National Democratic Congress. So we could not conclude. We are waiting on them. If we are called, we have said that we fully commit to the peace process regarding the Akwatia by-election. We have said it several occasions, and we are going to repeat it again. So for us, we cannot continue with this meeting.
And indeed, they did not continue. We know that meeting collapsed, and so there's no peace pact. The Peace Council was hoping for that. As we are now learning, the police, they have now deployed 5,500 police officers to the area. They flooded the entire Akwatia constituency with police officers. Some of them will be armed just to ward off potential miscreants who want to inflict violence on people there in that area just because of a by-election. Guess who else is flooding the area with reporters? JoyNews, your election headquarters. We are there on the ground with multiple boots on the ground to ensure that you do not miss a thing. Leading the team there is my colleague, Gonja-Brifor, who joins us live now. Kojo, give me a feel of what you have seen since you touched down.
As you stated there, the number of police personnel on the ground is simply amazing. I mean, if I'm not overstating it, after every 500 meters, you'd meet a checkpoint where the police are checking the cars that are entering a particular spot. You'd see the police cars in the town. I mean, they move about regularly, and not just once, but you see 2 cars, you see 3 cars, giving you the signal that, in fact, the police is here to ensure that the security of this election is protected. So, I mean, the security presence gives you that assurance that everything will go well tomorrow. I've also seen the parties preparing in the last minute, undertaking their last minute preparations to ensure that they tie the ends tightly to ensure that they have a grip on this particular election. We've spoken to people, we've spoken to people from both sides. I mean, both sides are in high spirit to win this election. But I can only say that the police presence I've seen gives me that assurance, even though the political parties did not conclude that particular meeting with the Peace Council, so that we can be rest assured that both of them are committing to the Peace Pact or Accord. But at least the police presence gives you that assurance that everything, if indeed goes according to plan, this election will be peaceful. Evans.
Thank you very much. And Brace and the rest of the team will be on the ground beginning tomorrow from 5 a.m. You want to stay with us. Your election headquarters are going to be all over the Akwatia by-elections for you. If anything happens there, you hear it first here on your election headquarters. I want to stay here in the Greater Accra region because relative calm has returned to Omanjo and so to after last Saturday's violent clash that claimed 3 lives. The incident, which stemmed from tensions between rival groups in the two communities on the back of the Homowa Festival sparked fear and heightened security concerns among residents. Police have since intensified patrols in the area to prevent further disturbances. My colleague Pearl Fori was there for us and joins me in the studio with more on this. And Pearl, what did you find as far as the police visibility is concerned?
Well, I visited if the whole community, Omajo and also Sotium. You could see a lot of policemen there, also their vehicles stationed at vantage points. I visited the palace of the chief of Sotium, that's Ni Osabukwe the first, and also visited the palace of the Omanjo chief. I didn't speak to him. I spoke to the Queen Mother, that's Manyena Achawa Fellow the first. You could see the police station there to ensure that, okay, of course, they are to prevent reprisal attacks, because that's what we had on the ground when we visited.
So the people are concerned about reprisal attacks.
People are concerned about reprisal attacks.
What about those who died? I mean, there's a lot of talk about who they are, whether they are from the community. What did you establish?
Well, we can't confirm if they are from the community or not. I spoke to the Queen Mother of Omanjo, and she said that they don't know whether they are in the community or not.
Thank you, Pearl. Pearl's report subsequently. And there's more to this, though.
Yeah, there's more to this because the police released a statement on the back of this. And the latest from the police is that it has arrested 2 people over the Omanjo homo violence. That's the latest statement coming from the police.
Okay, by the police, they are on the ground in force.
Yeah, they're on the ground, yes.
Visible.
Yes.
Also. Pearl, thank you very much. And that's it for News Night tonight. My name is Evans Mensah.
I am Kenneth. Jesse, have a good evening.
You want to stay with us for the latest on the removal of the Chief Justice. You want to check our many social media platforms because we have further developments there for you. It's on Facebook. It's also on YouTube and X as well. Enjoy the rest of the